is Dr. Stephen D. Kongulu. I am a wildlife veterinarian working at Ol Pejeta Conservancy. I manage the Sweetwaters Chimpanzee Sanctuary, and I'm also the wildlife veterinarian for the free-ranging wildlife and other semi-captive wildlife like the northern white rhino. This is all under the supervision of Ol Pejeta Conservancy and the Kenya Wildlife Service. Ol Pejeta Conservancy is a wildlife conservation area that conserves wildlife, offers a home or refuge to great apes, and also engages in conservation tourism and other complementary enterprises that will eventually generate revenue that will be pumped back, or that is pumped back into conservation of the species that we have and other community development programs that have been established across the communities that we support. Sweetwaters Chimpanzee Sanctuary offers or provides a refuge and a home for chimpanzees that have been rescued or those that have been orphaned as a result of the bushmeat trade, the trade in pets, in apes as pets, and the destruction of habitats in the range states of some of these great apes. Sweetwaters Chimpanzee Sanctuary provides care, high standards of care for these animals, and also is a platform for advocacy and education about the plight of chimpanzees in the world, especially in their range states. In July 2020, we received communication from Iran, Tehran. There is a zoo called Eram Zoo. It's a zoo and a sports recreational center. We received communication from their veterinarians and other zoo authorities, and they had a request to us. They requested us if there was a possibility of rehoming a then 3-year-old female chimpanzee called Baran. We accepted that request, of course, after consultation within and with the Kenyan government. We accepted the request to offer home. Sweetwaters Chimpanzee Sanctuary has enough room and resources to take care of at least 40 more or 50 more chimpanzees that will be in need right now. So we accepted that request, and we entered into very serious correspondences with the Kenya Wildlife Service, the Directorate of Veterinary Services in Kenya, and the authorities in Iran, including the Iranian ambassador to Kenya. But then, because of the travel restrictions at that time last year, we had, we all know about the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. Because of the travel restrictions and so many other challenges, we were not able to fast track the relocation of Baran to Kenya. But then early this year, we picked that up, and we were able to acquire permits. We were able to acquire the CITES permits and the veterinary import permits. This was after the officials in Iran fulfilled some requests that the government of Kenya was interested in, and these were requirements for the importation of a primate into this country. Baran eventually was relocated into Kenya on the 5th of July 2021, and we placed her in quarantine. Quarantine for animals. Quarantine is a practice that is widely used in veterinary practice, and it basically means restricting movement and interaction of animals that are either suspected to be having a disease or those that have come in from a different region, for them to be monitored, observed, to see if disease will develop, and for them also to be examined by veterinary officials to be given a clean bill of health. So Baran, we placed Baran into quarantine, and she's going to be in quarantine for foreseeable number of days. Like according to the Director of Veterinary Services and the Kenya Wildlife Service guidelines, Baran is going to be in quarantine for a minimum of 90 days, during which we will us as management and under the supervision of Kenya Wildlife Service, we will undertake various activities that include behavior monitoring, nutrition monitoring and feeding, veterinary physical examination and laboratory analysis of samples from Baran, just to see whether Baran has any issues that would, in a negative way, impact the other chimpanzees when it gets to the time we want to integrate her. So these are the activities that will happen in quarantine, and they are mandatory as per any applicable Kenyan law. Baran is a chimpanzee that was born on the 23rd of June 2017. So she's exactly 4 years and a month old. She was unfortunately born premature and had to be raised by a caregiver back in the zoo. So the mother did not have an opportunity to raise her because of those circumstances. We were also reliably informed that as plans were being made to perhaps integrate her and introduce her into the group, the mother died before that process was done. So, and it was very difficult for the officials in the zoo to integrate and introduce Baran with adult chimpanzees at the zoo who were said to be hostile to her. So a sanctuary was chosen, and that was Sweetwaters. But then this also means for Baran, we have noticed for the few days that we've been with her, she doesn't have some natural behaviors that you will associate with a chimpanzee. There are some things she hasn't learned, and it's not her fault. She, for instance, has not learned how to climb ropes and climb onto high areas, which is naturally something chimpanzees do in the wild, and at Sweetwaters. She hasn't been able to use some of the bedding, the hay that we put in the house for her to use. We hope that we will progressively teach her how to use these things before the 3 months are over. But then even if she doesn't learn, when she is integrated, she will be taught by the other chimpanzees. We are also very optimistic because even though we think that her being isolated and living alone in a small area where she was could have affected her mental stability, we have noticed that she vocalizes, she makes the sounds that chimpanzees make in the wild, and she can display, she can try to jump and display like a chimpanzee, and she vocalizes, she pant-hoots, which is a very good sign, and it shows that the future for her at Sweetwaters is bright, and it just displays that she's a chimpanzee, and we aim to ensure that she interacts more with chimpanzees than she has previously done with humans. Sweetwaters Chimpanzee Sanctuary is a sanctuary that is 250 acres, and it offers an environment that is as natural as the natural environment chimpanzees live in. Our chimpanzees exist in this environment, and we have enriched part of this environment with enrichment structures to allow our chimpanzees to live a near natural life. Once Baran completes quarantine, we will progressively start integrating her with the chimpanzee population that we have here. This involves identification of a foster mother, the one who will be in charge of Baran, the one who will adopt Baran as the stepmom or the foster mother. And we have a few females that are very good candidates, and we've had excellent experience with them. One of them is called Jen. Jen is very good. We expect to use Jen. And the other one is Akila. Akila is excellent, and she did a very good job with Mano when we rescued Mano from Iraq in 2016, 2017. So we expect that once Baran completes quarantine and she is given a clean bill of health by the vets, we will, under the dedicated care of our caregivers, we will gradually put her together with one of the foster mothers I've mentioned to see how she takes her up. And if she's accepted by the mother, we will then bring in other young chimpanzees. In the group that is ideally the one that we will put Baran in, there are few young chimpanzees. We have Bella, we have Bo, we have Mano. Bella is 5 years, Bo is 6, and Mano is around heading to 8 years. We expect that these young chimpanzees, together with the foster moms, will form the initial group that will adopt Baran into the sanctuary. And eventually, the caregivers will introduce Baran to, after she's been accepted by the group that we are targeting, she will be introduced to the males and eventually to the alpha male. And she will live happily ever after, hopefully.